And now get ready to smile again with radio's home folks, Vic and Sade. Well, sir, it's about 7 o'clock as we enter the small house halfway up in the next block now. And here in the living room we find all our friends assembled, including Sade's Uncle Fletcher. Uncle Fletcher is seated beside young Rush on the Davenport, and we hear him say,
Yes, I carry considerable keys in my pocket, always have.
I never saw so many in one bunch.
Better than 100 here.
Don't they weigh you down?
Some.
Let me heft them once.
Fine.
Golly, did you ever see so many keys? Look once, Gal.
Holy smoke.
All through life, I've carried a big bunch of keys. Made it a point never to throw a key away. Somebody told me one time it's bad luck to throw keys away. Ever hear that, Sadie?
No, I don't believe so.
Tell you who give me that information.
All right.
Harry McFitcher.
Hmm?
You recollect Harry likely.
No. Dixon man?
Belvedere. Here's the party I was telling you about that fell off the piano stool, got his knee caught in his necktie, and choked to death before anybody could get him untangled.
Goodness.
I did tell you about that, didn't I?
Well, I don't quite remember it.
Fine.
Your anecdotes, Uncle Fletcher, are always so startling.
Uh-huh. No, Harry was visiting a young lady there in Belvedere, and after supper, everybody was lazied around the living room, and the young lady's papa said, Step over to the piano, Harry, and slam us out a tune. You say you don't remember Harry, Sadie? Fella could play the piano like a cyclone. Young lady's papa said, Step over to the piano, Harry, and slam us out a tune. Harry whirled the stool around a few times, sat down, lost his footing, crashed to the floor, and began to squirm. Nobody knew what was the matter. Come to find out, Harry'd got his knee caught in his necktie. Died on the spot.
My Lance.
Very sad thing.
My stars, yes.
They wrote it up in the Freeport papers and all around.
Do you use all these keys, Uncle Fletcher?
Oh, no. Don't use a tenth of them.
I was gonna say.
This here key is my door key at home.
Uh-huh.
Now, this half-wit key, as far as I know, don't unlock anything.
Huh?
Fancy one, though.
Yeah, that little curly-cues and junk.
Might be a bookcase key. Bookcase keys are generally like this.
Ours is.
Fine. No, I carry keys. Take some fellas, they don't carry keys, but I do. I carry keys.
Oh.
Delicious supper, Sadie.
Oh, thank you.
Here's a big son of a gun of a key.
That key, Rush, unlocks a tool house on the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad.
Yeah?
Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad.
Huh.
I've carried it for more than 20 years.
Huh.
I always figure carrying a big bunch of keys helps a fellow make a good impression on people.
Oh, so?
Beg pardon, Vic?
What's your line of reasoning?
Uh-huh.
You just said you figured carrying keys makes a good impression on people. Gov wonders how you come to that conclusion.
Oh, wondered about that, huh, Vic?
Yeah.
No, it's the way you're built, I guess. I carry keys. Maybe you don't carry keys.
I only carry the ones I use.
Sure. Well, I can understand that.
Leland Richards lugs a lot of keys around with him.
Leland is a good boy.
He hasn't got as many as you've got, but he's got enough to weigh his pockets down to where it looks like he's carrying a brick around with him.
Leland's all right. I saw Leland just this afternoon. Delicious supper, Sadie.
I thought it was pretty fair myself.
Uh-huh. No, I'll tell you, Rush. Fella carry plenty of keys on him, and people look up to you.
Is that right?
I say I'm going into a store to buy a pair of sleeve garters.
Uh-huh.
I tell the half-wit clerk I want sleeve garters. Tell him I want good sleeve garters. Good sleeve garters and no nonsense or back talk. Then I pull my bunch of keys out of my pocket and twirl them around, careless and absent-minded. Half-wit clerk's eyes will bug out every time. He'll jump up sharp and look alive. It's the same principle as when you flash a big wad of money. Some fellas do that. Some fellas flip out a roll of bills as fat as your leg. But I find a big bunch of keys gets the same results. Yeah, I carry keys.
Oh.
You guys want to play rummy?
We're chatting along fine, Vic.
Okay.
Maybe you'd like to pop some popcorn after a while.
Not at all.
Well, seems like we ought to do something to entertain you.
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
What's this little bit of a key?
Watch key.
Watch key?
Rush, haven't you ever seen a key winder or watch?
No.
I can recall one that wasn't any other kind. Remember the old key winder I used to have, Sadie?
Oh, you bet I do.
I used to hold it up to you and Bessie's ear.
Uh-huh. Do you still have it at home?
That watch got smashed into 40 pieces.
Oh, really?
I lent it to Charlie Ingalls, and Charlie got mad at Ed Werper and threw it at him. Half-wit watch bounced off Ed's head and hit the side of a building. The watch wasn't worth 30 cents afterwards.
I call it bad judgment to throw a watch at a guy.
Fine. I suppose you knew Charlie Ingalls, didn't you?
The Dixon fella?
Yeah, born and raised in Belvedere. I think they used to tell it on Charlie he never was outside of Belvedere city limits. Hot-tempered as a horse. Well, he threw my watch at Ed Werper. Hit him, too, right in the head. Ed howled like a panther.
Maybe there's some nice card game we all four could play.
Well, sure. Trot up a few chairs.
Here, Rush, is a key a fellow handed me one time.
Handed you?
Out of a clear sky. Never saw the fellow before and never saw him since. I was walking along the street in Dexter, Missouri. I felt a nudge on my elbow, and here's a man in a straw hat and nose glasses. Take this, he says. He had me the key, and I turned around and run down the street. Make head or tail to that?
No.
Make head or tail to that, Vic?
No.
Make head or tail to that, Sadie?
No.
Well, I couldn't make head or tail to it. Thought about it considerable, too. Get down to Dexter, Missouri much, Vic?
Never set foot in the place.
Fine. No, you take it like I'm going into a lunchroom or somewhere. Say to the clerk, look, my friend, 2 eggs over easy. I don't want any delay, and I don't want any cute remarks. 2 eggs over easy and hustle. Then I out with my big bunch of keys. Does the trick every time. That waiter will take one look, and then his jaw will drop open, and he'll trot off after my eggs like a racehorse.
I never thought you were the kind of a gentleman that talks sharp and cross to waiters, Uncle Fletcher.
Uh-huh. Oh, they respect you more, see? Fellow with a big bunch of keys on him gives the impression he is somebody. I've worked it time and time again. Remember Ollie Mudfigle?
No.
Married Helen Yeeps?
Dixon people?
Yeah. Born and raised in Belvedere, just like Charlie Ingalls. Well, one time Ollie and myself were going to take in a picture show at Freeport. Ollie stepped up to the ticket window and bought a ticket. I was right behind him and tore him a big bunch of keys. The girl selling tickets took one glance at the keys and said, you may go in free of charge, sir.
Well.
Ollie Mudfigle. Died in a funny way, Ollie.
I bet he did.
Beg pardon, Vic?
Did he swallow a knife and fork?
Who, Ollie? No.
I bet he tripped over a mad dog.
No, he didn't. Ollie Mudfigle got his head caught in a suitcase.
Oh, my.
He was packing his suitcase to take a trip to Newton, Iowa. I suppose you get around to Newton, Iowa considerable, Vic.
Never been there.
Fine. He was packing his suitcase, and his wife was helping him. Half-wit suitcase was so full they couldn't get it shut. Ollie says, hey, Helen, sit on the half-wit suitcase. Well, sir, she sat on the half-wit suitcase, never noticed that Ollie's head was inside.
He died?
He died.
Oh, my.
Yes, very sad thing.
All your pals seem to end up passing away under very tragic circumstances, Uncle Fletcher.
Fine. No, everybody felt bad about Ollie. Very popular fellow around Belvedere there. Delicious supper tonight, Sadie.
Thank you.
I'll pop popcorn after a while if you want it.
All right.
Around 8 o'clock, 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock, 9:15. We'll feel like popping a little popcorn.
Uh-huh.
How about a 4-handed game of rummy?
Yeah, let's play rummy, everybody.
Okay.
How about it, Uncle Fletcher? A nice game of cards, and afterwards we'll get out the popcorn popper.
Fine.
Here's your keys, Uncle Fletcher.
Yeah, I carry keys. All through my life I've carried keys. Made the point never to throw away a key.
Uh-huh.
I carry keys.
Which concludes another brief interlude at the small house halfway up in the next block. And here we leave Vic and Sade until the next time. Well, sir, it's late afternoon as we enter the small house halfway up in the next block now. And here in the living room, we find Mr. Victor Gook and young Mr. Rush Gook. The former has just arrived home from the office and is listening with great absorption to a recital of recent events as narrated by his son.
He said these 5 fellas in Hunkerman, Maine were very anxious to meet you. He said they'd all be greatly honored if you'd make the trip.
Where was McDancy telephoning from?
Well, I don't know. East Brain, Oregon, I suppose. Ain't that where he lives?
Well,
It was a long-distance call, I know.
how could you tell?
When I picked up the receiver, somebody asked if this was the Gook residence, and I said yes, and then they said, here's your party.
Uh-huh.
That proves it's long distance.
Uh-huh.
I expect we talked 5 minutes or better. I even took notes. Here's a list of the 5 fellas that are so anxious to meet you.
Why do they want to meet me?
They've heard so much about you.
Where did they hear so much about me?
Mr. McDancy never said.
Well, I can't make head or tails to this.
Well, here's the 5 names. Ollie J. York, V. Donald Gix, Q.L. Cunningham, T.S. Slank, and Urquhart Pugh Urquhart.
Never heard of a darn one of them.
According to Mr. McDancy, they'd all give the shirt off their back to shake you by the hand and make your acquaintance.
Hi.
Everybody home?
Yeah. When's McDancy want me to make this trip?
September 20th.
You say anything about expenses?
Yes, he said you'd have to pay them yourself.
Well, thunder.
Howdy, hi, ho, people.
Greetings, Mom.
Oh, say.
Hello. You want to hear some wild, crazy little gossip?
Yeah.
I've been over to Miss Donahue's just now. The story she had to tell on Miss Elders. You'll throw your shoes over the People's Bank building.
Well, I'm about to do that anyway.
Why? What's the matter?
Hippopotamus here just had a long-distance telephone call from Homer U. McDancy.
The Oregon fellow?
Yeah.
I don't know whether he was calling from Oregon or not. Operator never said. But it was long distance, okay.
What do you want?
Wanted me to travel to Hunkerman, Maine and meet some chums of his.
What for?
Just to be meeting them, I guess. Describe the conversation, George.
Well, I was sitting here looking over the 3rd Lieutenant Stanley book I borrowed off from Vernon Pagel. It starts out very interesting. Seems Lady Margaret and 3rd Lieutenant Stanley are in the power of a gang of counterfeit and deep-sea divers.
We don't want a book report, Alice. Please skip the literary embroidery and get down to
Well, phone rang. I rose from my chair to answer it, thinking it was Bluetooth Johnson or Leland Richards or Rooster Davis or Leroy Snow.
Okay, friend. I'll take over. Homer U. McDancy was on the wire. He tried to reach Smith's office, and I wasn't there, so he called home. Not find me at home either, he left his message with Stone Brews. And his message, from what I gather, is that he'd like to have me travel to Hunkerman, Maine, and meet these 5 pals of his.
Who are they?
Read them off, Laura.
Ollie J. York, V. Donald Gix, Q.L. Cunningham, T.S. Slank, and Urquhart Pugh Urquhart.
Well, are they anybody you've met before?
No, not a single name is familiar.
What's the idea of it?
Search me.
Well, the idea of it, according to Mr. McDancy, is that these 5 guys are just dying to make Dove's acquaintance.
Why?
They've heard so much about him.
Do they live in Maine?
Yeah.
Well, how'd they be likely to hear anything about you in Maine?
I don't know.
Are they lodge fellas? Sacred Stars of the Milky Way guys?
No, they're not.
They're not?
No, because I asked Mr. McDancy.
Are they Consolidated Kitchenware Company men?
No.
You asked McDancy that question, too?
Uh-huh.
It don't make sense.
Certainly don't to me.
How'd you get so famous in the state of Maine, Gov?
I'd like to know myself.
According to Mr. McDancy, these 5 guys are just chewing their fingernails. They're so feverish to make your acquaintance.
Well, where in thunder did they hear of me? I never been to Maine. I doubted they could have heard of me through McDancy because he lives in Oregon. I don't think he's ever been either. Of course, if they were Sky Brothers and the Sacred Stars of the Milky Way, they might have read about me in the Lodge magazine. But you say they're not.
No, I asked especially.
And if they were employed by the Consolidated Kitchenware Company, they might have read about me in the Kitchenware Dealers Quarterly.
They're not employed there.
Read off those half-wit names again.
Ollie J. York, V. Donald Gix, Q.L. Cunningham.
No, wait a minute. Read them still slower than that.
Ollie J. York, V. Donald Gix, Q.L. Cunningham, T.S. Slank, Urquhart Pugh Urquhart.
No.
Urquhart is Miss Scott's brother's name.
He's not a state of Maine slob, is he?
State of Iowa, Slav. Well, you're not going to go on any such a foolish expedition, are you?
I doubt it.
What it probably boils down to is Homer U. McDancy is addled in the head like that H.K. Fleaver chum of yours.
Ah.
I'll tell you the funny little gossips about Miss Elders.
All right.
Craziest business. Her and Miss Call had a quarrel. And here's what happened. They were sitting in Miss Elder's living room. They got in this argument, and the argument got, quite bitter, I guess. Very harsh remarks was exchanged. Well, sir, Miss Elders has a temper that'd choke a horse. She rose from her chair and said, I believe I will get my hat and leave, Miss Call. I feel that quite enough has been said. And she marched out of the room, into the hallway, slammed her hat on her head, and went outdoors. I bet you don't catch on to what's comical.
There's some comical?
Do you catch on to what's comical, Rush?
No.
She'd got up and marched out of her own house. See, it was Miss Elder's living room they were sitting in.
Oh.
She marched out of her own house. It was excitement, I guess, made her do it. She must have let herself get the impression she was in Miss Call's living room. Anyway, she found herself out on the street with her hat on and no place to go. And you know what that Dickens of a Miss Call done?
What?
Stayed inside. Stayed inside. Oh, for maybe 10 minutes. I think that's the funniest thing I ever heard of. Miss Call told Miss Donahue, and Miss Donahue told me. We just howled. I believe I will get my hat and leave, Miss Call. I feel that quite enough has been said. And she went striding and snorting out of her own house, never realizing. Oh, boy, I call that rich.
McDancy, say anything else over the phone that might give us a clue to this mystery?
I think I've told you the entire conversation.
It's so incredible. Why would there be 5 guys in the state of Maine anxious to meet me?
Couldn't say.
And even if there were 5 guys in the state of Maine anxious to meet me, why would Homer U. McDancy spend money on a long-distance telephone call to ask me to pay my expenses clear across the continent to meet them?
Couldn't say.
I bet Homer U. McDancy's on the H.K. Fleaver order. Not all there in the upper story.
Oh.
Sounds to me like an ambush.
Ambush?
Yeah. Homer U. McDancy might have turned crook. He's trying to coax you away from home way off there in Maine. Once he gets you in Maine, he'll steal your watch and pocketbook.
Oh, boy.
For one thing, these names look fictitious. Ollie J. York. I call that fictitious as a horse. V. Donald Gix. Fictitious as a horse. Q.L. Cunningham.
Fictitious as a horse.
Sure. And also T.S. Slank and Urquhart Pugh Urquhart.
Fictitious as a horse.
Darn right.
Awful funny, huh, Vic, about Miss Elders?
Oh, yeah.
Found herself out on the sidewalk with no place to go. Got so excited with her quick temper and all, she was under the impression she was marching out of Miss Call's living room. Oh, boy, I call that rich. Well, hey, here, I better trot out and see about supper.
Need groceries from the store, Mom?
No, I'll have to investigate the pantry and see.
Oh,
Better not trot off any place till I make certain.
okay.
I don't suppose there could be 5 guys in the state of Maine that had heard so much about me they wanted to meet me.
Huh?
You?
Gee, I wouldn't know, Gal.
No.
Huh?
Be impossible.
Huh?
Shucks. Read off the names again.
Names the guys that are dying to shake you by the hand and make your personal acquaintance?
Yeah.
Ollie J. York, V. Donald Gix, Q.L. Cunningham, D.S. Slank, and Urquhart Pugh Urquhart.
Well, sir, it's about 4:30 o'clock as we approach the small house halfway up in the next block now. And here on the back porch, we find Mr. and Mrs. Victor Gook. Our friends are seated side by side on the top step at one, enjoying fine, warm sunshine. And Sade is saying,
Appreciate how long you've been sitting here? 15 minutes.
Really? That long?
I glanced at the kitchen clock just as you got home. 4:15. Courthouse clock just struck 4:30.
How time flies, to be sure.
As long as you left the office early to oil and adjust the lawnmower, a person would think you'd get busy oiling and adjusting the lawnmower.
There are two schools of thought on that subject, Dr. Sleech. A group of serious thinkers in Yellow Jump, North Dakota, under the leadership of Y.T. Fish, hold that no man should
Maybe you'll have nice help with your lawnmower. Here comes Rush up the alley.
Why, yes, Rush. What's his last name?
Peterson. Use the sidewalk, please.
Okay.
I saw you take a shortcut yesterday, too, mister.
Eavesdroppers seldom hear good of themselves. Maybe after this you'll know better than to spy on your husband.
Gov, come home early to oil and adjust the lawnmower, Willie. How'd you like to help?
Okay.
The whirlamajig do funny underneath the whatchamacallit that does the cutting is all clogged up. Wouldn't be surprised with what you'll have to take the whole lawnmower apart to get at the difficulty.
Of course, there's no tumultuous rush about it, Pete. Sit down a minute and relax.
Fellas leave the office early to fix lawnmowers and then don't fix any lawnmowers.
You'd go into a thing like this pell-mell and willy-nilly. Your wise man is your deliberate man.
Uh-huh. Brought home your algebra book at last, huh?
Yeah, and not to study, though. Just using it as a kind of a briefcase. Something to put all these papers in.
What are the papers?
It's just barely possible you people might be interested. Quit leaning against me, Gov.
No.
I want to spread these documents out on the step.
No.
Come on, shove over.
Spread your documents out on the step some other day. Be supper time pretty quick, and you fellas won't have even touched the lawnmower.
Come to think of it, Sadie, it seems to me I took a solemn oath as a small boy never to touch a lawnmower until I reached the age of 62. Or was that snuff? Somewhere in my...
Now you're going to lean on me, huh? Go away.
These documents are going to be pasted on the bulletin board up at school. Mr. Chinmoney made the announcement in assembly today that any students who have any interesting news or facts of general interest are welcome to write them up neatly and stick them up on the bulletin board. All afternoon, everybody's been taking advantage of the opportunity. I'm the bulletin board monitor, so they handed me their stuff. Here's Vernon Peggle's offering.
We'll save it for later on, Willie. You and your father got a little work to get out of the way.
I want to hear Vernon Peggle's offering.
Fellas leave the office early to oil lawnmowers and then don't oil any lawnmowers.
You could say it like this. Levis field the office early to earl lawnmowers and then don't earl any lawnmowers.
Ha, ha, ha. Funny man.
Urquhart, read me Vernon Peggle's interesting news and facts of general interest that he wants pasted on the bulletin board.
Vernon Peggles of Nome, Alaska, reports that he read in the paper...
Nome, Alaska?
Vernon plans to reside in Nome, Alaska soon as he finishes school, gets married, grows wealthy, and wishes to settle down and take stuff easy. Vernon Peggles of Nome, Alaska, reports that he read in the newspaper where flies in tropical countries are very sluggish and therefore easier to swat.
I call that a fascinating fact of general interest.
Well, it's probably a pretty rotten fact and not worth a dime, but Mr. Chinmoney said students were welcome to paste anything they wanted to on the bulletin board. Mr. Vernon Peggles is happy to make the statement that he can chin himself more times than anybody else in the sophomore class. Please consider this a challenge. Mr. Vernon Peggles took supper Tuesday night at the home of his Uncle James and Aunt Bertha Wyatt, 226 North Mason Street.
Awful lot of trash about Mr. Vernon Peggles.
Yeah. Mr. Vernon Peggles likes grapes, butter, ketchup, and celery. Mr. Vernon Peggles was absent from Sunday school 2 Sundays in a row, losing... Well, what's eating Vernon? I'm not going to slap junk like this on the bulletin board.
Vernon Peggles is liberal with his contributions.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to slap junk like this on the half-wood bulletin board.
Lawnmower, Vic?
What?
Lawnmower?
What?
Oh, ish.
What?
Fellas leave the office early to oil lawnmowers and then don't oil any lawnmowers.
I like to say it the other way. Levis field the office early to earl lawnmowers and then don't earl any lawnmowers.
Funny, funny man. Funny, funny, funny man.
Here's another doggo in Vernon Peggle's, Leroy Snow.
Leroy submits some vital news and facts of general interest.
Yeah, big lame brain. Mr. Leroy Snow is showing startling mental development of late. One is amazed how he grows smarter and smarter.
One is also amazed at his modesty.
These guys are taking advantage of the bulletin board. Just want to see their names plastered around.
A human frailty. Wasn't it Benjamin Franklin who just prior to inventing the steamboat remarked that...
Oh, heck, listen to this. Mr. Leroy Snow, unlike most individuals, hasn't got the slightest fear of snakes or poisonous insects. Dear close friends of Mr. Leroy Snow often laughingly comment on this astonishing fact. Mr. Leroy Snow has 3 uncles in the barber business. For all Mr. Leroy Snow knows, this is a world's record. Mr. Leroy Snow is never quite so happy as... Holy smoke, a whole half-wit page about Mr. Leroy Snow.
Mr. Leroy Snow is hardly what you'd call a shy violet.
What's the student body care if Mr. Leroy Snow has 3 uncles in the barber business?
He can put his 3 uncles in his hat and pull his hat down over his ears.
I'll say. By George, you take some guys, all they think about is theirself. Civilization sunk pretty low when they...
City.
Huh?
Tut-tut.
Tut-tut what?
You were about to say lawnmower.
Yes, I was.
Wait 2 more minutes.
Uh-huh. Look at Charlie Razorscum across the alley, painting window screens. Just mourn working away.
Charlie is a chump.
What?
Charlie is my chum. I love and admire Charlie and his industrious habits. Charlie.
Here's somebody handed in junk for the bulletin board they tried to make interesting.
Bluetooth Johnson?
No, Russell Duncan.
Russell is a good boy.
Uncle Fletcher stopped past this afternoon.
Huh?
Only for a minute.
How's he feeling?
Fine.
Glorious day.
Yeah.
Here's Russell's facts.
Whip him out.
Several freshman girls have developed the habit of monopolizing the second-floor drinking fountain at the west end of the building. They crowd around and keep thirsty students from getting water. That's not bad. Miss Engel, our librarian, is always willing to help students look up references. You will be wise to take advantage of this privilege. Not bad at all. Mr. Chinbunny has announced that there will be severe penalties for students caught tampering with the delicate instruments in the physics laboratory. A word to the wise is sufficient. Well, this junk is okay. I'll slap it on the bulletin board without an instant's hesitation. But here, Milton Welch's fine news and facts of general interest. Mr. Milton Welch as yet has formulated no plans for the summer. Mr. Milton Welch prefers black olives to green olives. Mr. Milton Welch has visited extensively in the southern part of the state, including the cities of Springfield, East St. Louis, Alton, Carbondale, Carroll, Centralia, Newton. Oh, heck.
Mr. Milton Welch apparently feels...
And here, nicer Scott's dandy news and facts of general interest. Look at the paragraphs. Nicer Scott, 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 nicer Scott. Ain't that rotten?
Yeah.
Selfishness.
Yeah.
Greediness. Conceit.
Vic, will you please get at that
Hey,
lawnmower?
isn't this one yours?
Yeah.
What kind of interesting news and fascinating facts have you got?
Good ones.
Let's hear some.
Students are looking forward eagerly to summer vacation. Miscreants have lately been drawing pictures on the walls of the gymnasium. Guilty parties take warning as Mr. Chinbunny is on the watch. Miss Mildred Tisdall reports the loss of a shoe buckle. A very, very small reward is offered.
Those items will adorn and glorify your bulletin board no end.
Mr. Rush Gook is more partial to string beans than he is to kidney beans. Mr. Rush Gook has traveled to Chicago more than a dozen times. Mr. Rush Gook, during one Christmas season, had over $7 cash in his pocket. Mr. Rush Gook often comes out in splotches after 9 innings of baseball. Mr. Rush Gook's name, Mr. Rush Gook, is a name Mr. Rush Gook does not want twisted into nicknames like Mr. Mushhook. Mr. Rush Gook has a pair of ice skates for sale. Mr. Rush Gook has never been west of Peoria. Mr. Rush Gook likes pie.
Which concludes another brief interlude at the small house halfway up in the next block.
Well, Well, sir, it's about 8 o'clock in the evening as we enter the small house halfway up in the next block now. And here in the living room, we find Mrs. Victor Gook and her uncle, Mr. Fletcher Rush. Uncle Fletcher dropped in only a moment ago, and his niece is saying to him,
How nice of Miss Keller to make the suggestion.
Uh-huh.
Thoughtful of her, too.
Fine landlady.
You bet she is.
No, I said to her, Miss Keller, I believe we'll telephone my niece Bessie in Carberry long distance to have a little chat. See, Bessie's written me several times recently, and I've been kind of careless and forgetful and haven't answered.
Uh-huh.
So I thought I'd call her long distance and make up for it.
Sure. Dandy idea.
Miss Keller, I said, I believe I'll telephone my niece Bessie in Carberry long distance to have a little chat. Right off the bat, she said, why don't you go over to Sadie's house and do it? Then her family can say hello.
Next time I see Miss Keller, I'm going to thank her.
Fine. How do I get a hold of Bessie now? Do I tell Central I want to get connected
Well,
up
just
with...
a second, Uncle Fletcher. I bet Vic and Rush would like to be in on this.
Say who?
Vic's down cellar and Rush is upstairs.
Fine.
Oh, really?
We can all speak to Bessie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Ma.
We got lovely company.
Hello, Rush.
Hi. Be right down.
Do I tell Central I want to be connected with Carberry, Illinois?
Want me to do it?
I'll do it.
All right. Bess will be surprised as Robinson Crusoe.
We can all talk to Walter, too, and you'll see.
Sure.
Who's doing all the hollering?
Uncle Fletcher's here.
Evening, Vic.
How do?
One thing, Sadie.
Yes.
I pay.
Oh, that won't be necessary.
I pay. When you get your telephone bill, tell me what I owe.
All right.
How are you, Uncle Fletcher?
First rate, Rush.
Uncle Fletcher's going to call up Aunt Bess.
Oh, really?
I'm going to call up Bessie, Vic.
Good.
We can all say hello.
You bet.
Say hello to Walter, and you'll see, too.
It was Miss Keller's idea.
Fine.
Bess has written several times, and Uncle Fletcher's been busy, I guess, and hasn't answered. So he decided to make a lovely long-distance call. Miss Keller said, why didn't he do it here at our house, and we could all talk?
Miss Keller is a gentleman and a scholar.
Very sweet of her to make the suggestion.
Want me to get Carberry for you, Uncle Fletcher?
Fine. All right, here goes. At the Tell Central, I want Carberry, Illinois, huh?
Well, no, you don't.
There's no switchboard in Carberry. You get Freeport and tell the Freeport operator you want number 18 in Carberry.
Yeah.
Maybe one of us better do it.
There are several separate and distinct steps to it.
Fine. Freeport, huh?
I'll get you connected in a jiffy.
Long-distance telephone calls are hardly the thing for little boys, Rush. Better let me handle it.
Okay.
I'll let you call up somebody sometime.
All right.
Freeport, Illinois, Sadie?
First, you get the operator and ask
For long distance. And tell her you want to speak to number 18. She'll connect you with
Oh, you don't do any such a half-wit thing. You ask for Freeport, Illinois, and tell the Freeport operator...
Well, that's what I meant. You get a hold of long distance.
let me do it. I've telephoned Bess long distance 1,000 times. You'll have Uncle Fletcher so confused he won't know where he's at.
Freeport, Illinois, Sadie?
Here's what you do. When you pick up the receiver, tell the girl you want long distance. Pretty soon somebody will say long distance, and you tell him you want the operator in Freeport, Illinois. She'll ask you to hang up, and she'll ring you back. Then you wait for the phone to ring, and when it does, it'll be the Freeport girl, and you say you want number 18 in Carberry.
No.
I've called Bess.
Well, the local operator don't tell you she'll ring you back. The local operator will ring you.
One at a time. I know what I'm doing, Vic. I've called Bess.
Well, you've certainly done it the hard way.
Maybe I just better ask Central to connect me up with...
Look, Sade, excuse me, Uncle Fletcher. The local long-distance operator will get you the Freeport operator immediately. She's the one that tells you to hang up. Our operator don't tell you to hang up. Now, here's what you do.
No. Huh? Mine's right and we're wrong.
Well, of course. I've called Bess.
Why don't I just call Bess?
Well, all you do is ask the local operator.
Well, everybody talking at once and interrupting our company, too. I'm sorry, Uncle Fletcher.
Fine.
Mom, your explanation a minute ago was okay, but you left out one single little step.
Oh, I did, huh?
Here's what you do. You tell the local operator you want long distance. When the long-distance operator gets on the wire, you tell her you want Freeport, Illinois. And you also tell her you want the Freeport operator to call number 18 in Carberry. Then you're told to hang up and wait. And it's the local operator that does the telling.
That's exactly what I told Uncle Fletcher.
No, you told Uncle Fletcher to ask the Freeport operator to get number 18. Well, what's your point, operator?
I'll just pick up the receiver here and tell Central...
Tell Central you want long distance.
Fine.
In a second or two, there'll be a voice say long distance. You say you're calling Freeport, Illinois. She'll tell you to hang up a little bit, and she'll ring you back. She will, too.
No, Sade. Rush was right.
Oh, Rush was right now.
Yes. You tell the Freeport operator 2 things. You tell the Freeport
Local operator.
What?
You tell the local operator 2 things.
I say Freeport. I meant local.
I'm sorry, Uncle Fletcher.
Fine.
You tell the local operator 2 things.
You tell the local operator 2 things. Here, Uncle Fletcher, I'll put the call through.
No, I will.
See, I've talked to Bessie lots of times.
I'll get Bessie.
Yes, he's got it right there. He's footing the bill.
Fine.
Well, aren't you all confused? I'm not surprised.
I'll tell Central I want Freeport, Illinois.
Yes, and also tell her you want the Freeport operator to call number 18.
In Carberry, Illinois.
Yes, in Carberry, Illinois.
Oh, goodness.
Go ahead, Uncle Fletcher, do that.
I expect Bessie will answer after a bit.
Sure.
Freeport, Illinois?
The long-distance operator first.
Yeah, long-distance operator first.
Well, you don't even have to ask for the long-distance operator. When the person says Freeport, Illinois, the girl appreciates the party wants to talk to somebody out of town. They haven't got idiots working down there. He'll get the long-distance operator if he asks for Freeport, Illinois.
Here, I'll put it in a nutshell for you, Uncle
Oh,
Fletcher.
no, you won't either. You'll be quiet.
Oh.
Suppose Bessie's home.
Well, that's just a chance you'll have to take.
Walter and Yultsy home, too, likely, huh?
I imagine they are. Weeknight and all. Of course, they may have gone to bed. All this time fellas have wasted in chitter-chatter.
Might as well do the thing right.
Pick up the receiver, Uncle Fletcher.
Freeport, Illinois?
Yes.
Oh.
Freeport, Illinois is fine.
Hello? Freeport, Illinois, please. What? I said Freeport, Illinois. What? Long distance?
Say yes.
What?
Say yes.
Yes?
Tell her yes. Tell her you want long distance. You be quiet.
Hello, Central? Say,
Fletcher, tell her you're calling Freeport, Illinois, long distance.
What?
Tell the girl you're calling Freeport, Illinois, long distance.
I am calling Freeport, Illinois, long distance.
And you want number 18 in Carberry, Illinois? This, please.
Hello, Central? Hello, Central? Hey, you on the other end. Nobody says nothing.
Isn't the operator there?
No.
Jiggle the hook.
Yeah. Nobody says nothing.
Oh, jiggle the hook.
Fine.
Go ahead,
jiggle the hook.
Fine.
She's got to answer.
He's not going to jiggle the hook.
I believe I'll go home.
Go home.
Yeah.
And not call Bessie?
No.
You hanging up?
Yes. I believe I'll go home.
But Uncle Fletcher.
I'll telephone Bessie some other time.
Oh.
Believe I'll go home.
Well, sir, it's late afternoon as we approach the small house halfway up in the next block now. And here on the front porch, we find Mr. and Mrs. Victor Gook and their son, Mr. Rush Gook. Our friends are seated in a row on the top step but one, enjoying temperate breezes and splendid summer sunshine. Listen.
When on earth are you going to get around to putting up our porch swing?
You said the chains were rusted through.
Buy new ones.
Isn't that in your department?
Well, I don't see why it should be.
You do all the shopping, purchasing, and huckstering for the outfit.
Well, this is hardware, though. It's more of a man's job.
You're the party that bought our new coal scuttle.
All right. I'll go to Holder Brothers and lug 50 pounds of iron chains.
I will, Dr. Stitch.
When?
Oh, tomorrow.
Well, don't forget. Otherwise, we'll be sitting here on the steps till Christmas like heathens.
What are you pondering over so deeply, little dove?
I'm facing a problem concerning swings myself.
Really?
It's also a problem concerning Nicer Scott.
Nicer's a good boy.
Yeah.
What is the problem?
Well, sir, I'm wondering if I'd be a horrible hypocrite if I made friends with Nicer.
I believe we got an understanding. You're to make friends with Nicer and keep friends with Nicer.
Yeah, but all that off to one side.
No, not all that off to one side.
What I got in mind is something else again. Thing is, Gov, I don't like Nicer and never will like Nicer. However, right at this particular season, it would be to my advantage to cultivate his goodwill.
He has in his possession a large box of chocolate.
No, not that quite.
He has something in his possession you covet?
He has something in his possession I could use, all right.
What's that?
The 2 trees in his backyard out by the garbage box.
Papa is mystified.
I'll explain.
Okay.
I bumped into Uncle Fletcher this morning on Kelsey Street.
Oh, really? How is he?
Fine.
He never behaved like he was miffed.
Uh-uh.
He hasn't dropped by or telephoned since last week.
Said he'd been very busy lately.
What doing?
Oh, riding around on garbage wagons, I guess.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm glad he didn't act miffed. Occurred to me once or twice in the last couple of days his feelings might have been hurt last time he was here.
I don't think so.
A person can never tell how he's going to take stuff.
What's this problem you face, Cousin Will?
Uncle Fletcher's landlady's got a dandy hammock she brought down from Dixon.
Yeah?
I understand it's a peach. Big soft headrest, long fringe, plenty of room for 2 people, strong ropes, and a number 100% high-class hammock from the word go.
Uncle Fletcher offered to you?
Yes, he did.
We got no place to put any hammock.
No, we haven't. And neither has Miss Keller. That's why Uncle Fletcher offered us the use of it for the summer.
I began to add 2 and 2 together and get...
Nicer Scott.
Yeah, Nicer Scott.
Those 2 trees in Scott's backyard out by the garbage box are exactly the right distance apart for a hammock. You could search this wide world over and never find a better...
No, I don't think so, Rush.
Beg pardon?
I'm not such arms around the neck chums with Miss Scott. I'd feel like asking a favor like that.
Like what?
Requesting the use of their backyard.
A hammock, Mom, is a wonderful thing.
Yes, I know. Very comfortable.
An individual can sprawl out and relax till who laid the chunk.
Hammocks is nice, all right.
I was thinking I could cultivate a beautiful friendship with Nicer to where he'd be glad to offer them 2 trees of his.
No. Other people's backyards is a horse of a different color. It's all right to borrow a cup of sugar or a dab of butter and like that off of neighbors, but the use of their backyards is something else again. And with Miss Scott chilly the way she is, the whole business is out of the question. Might possibly work out with Miss Donahue if she had trees the right distance apart for hammocks, but I'm afraid I'd have to draw the line at Miss Scott.
Uh-huh. I was apprehensive you'd feel that way. Still in all, though, a fella hates to let the chance of laying in a hammock slip through his fingers.
Nobody else around here got a yard with suitable trees?
Not a soul. Vernon Pago's Aunt May's got suitable trees, but she lives way to heck and gone out on Morris Avenue.
Maybe you better just forget it then.
Hammock could certainly be swell this summer.
Have you sounded out Nicer on the matter, Sam?
Yes, I have.
What was his reaction?
About what you'd expect. I told him about it this noon, and a while ago when I come up the alley, he was standing out in his backyard with an axe.
Axe?
He was staring intently at one of the trees. His idea was to terrify me, see? He wanted to give me the impression he was playing with the notion of chopping down one of the trees.
Oh.
If he chopped down one of the trees, of course, it'd remove all hopes for a hammock.
Well, couldn't you and Nicer work out a deal on a cooperative basis?
How you mean, Gov?
Cold-blooded, down-to-the-bone business, undiluted by the milk of human kindness.
I don't catch on.
Well, you have a hammock. Nicer has the location for a hammock. Hammock and location are each worthless without the other. Couldn't an arrangement be set up whereby the 2 of you could pool your assets and obtain something to your mutual benefit? I have this in mind. You lay in the hammock on Mondays. Nicer lays in the hammock on Tuesdays. You lay in the hammock on Wednesdays. Nicer lays in the hammock on Thursdays, and so forth. Neither guy could feel obligated to the other.
What would you think of that, man?
Well, I couldn't ever bring myself to ask Miss Scott for the use of her backyard.
Well, she'd be enjoying the use of your hammock, though.
Be me asking the favor.
Yeah, I suppose.
Sure.
And then there's also the angle of Uncle Fletcher.
What angle's that?
If I accept the hammock and find a place to put it, he expects to lay in it considerable.
You say so?
Yeah.
A satisfactory schedule could still be worked out. Establish an understanding with Uncle Fletcher whereby he's at liberty to lay in the hammock every day in the week between the
Other
hours...
angles, too, Gov.
Yeah?
My friends, Nicer's friends. My relatives, Nicer's relatives. You and Mom's guests. Mr. and Miss Scott's guests.
Would they all expect to lay in the hammock?
Well, wouldn't they?
I hadn't considered that aspect of the situation.
Mom's pal, Miss Kreider, calls frequently, and about 3 out of every 4 times she calls, she has to lay down on account of a headache. Wouldn't it be natural for Mom to say, Miss Kreider, go outdoors and stretch out in our hammock a few minutes?
I doubt if I'd say that.
Be natural for you, too. And then, Gov, there's Hank Gutstop. He likes laying down better than eating dinner. If he found out you were the proprietor of a hammock, he'd be on hand every afternoon. Then there's Miss Scott's brother. He's in town a lot. And all my friends, Smelly Clark, Bluetooth Johnson, Brewster Davis, Leroy Snow, Leland Richards, Russell Duncan, Milton Welch, Cracky Otto, whole slew.
That hammock will resemble a can of sardines on brisk days.
Uncle Fletcher's landlady will be another party that'll expect to enjoy it. After all, it's her property. If UNC visits us from Carberry this summer, she'll want to use it. Miss Stembonner might want to stretch out for a snooze occasionally, Mom. And Miss Brighton and Miss Trogel and Miss Heddles and Miss Healy. And then there's Nicer's pals. Ed Hago, Scissorneck Edwards, Bill Veepley, Fat Morris, Wilbert Stang.
You see, that hammock will resemble a can of sardines on brisk days.
Oh, beg pardon. Didn't realize anybody else was in here.
Think no more about it. Let me introduce myself. My name is Mr. Harrison.
My name is Mr. Brown.
Glad to form your acquaintance. Shake hands with my friend, Mr. Kilgore.
Oh, I thought we was the only ones in this hammock.
Not at all. My cousin William's underneath here someplace, and those feet with the brown oxfords belong to my Uncle George.
No, but all jokes smothered and forgotten, it presents quite a problem.
I'd forget the whole thing, Willie.
Oh.
On top of my objections to asking Miss Scott for the use of her backyard this summer, I'd also hate to be responsible for somebody else's property.
Oh.
Another thing, our family's always been unlucky with hammocks.
Unlucky?
Your grandfather fell out of one in Stanwood, Iowa, and broke his collarbone. My cousin Robert fell out of one in St. Paul, Minnesota, and smashed his thumb to where he had to give up playing the violin. Uncle Fletcher himself fell out of a hammock once. Got a goose egg on his forehead big as my shoe.
Oh.
Of course, I don't make anything superstitious out of that or anything, but, you know, no sense in waving the red flag at the angry bull.
Oh.
So, take it all in all, maybe you better thank Uncle Fletcher for the hammock very kindly next time you see him and say you're afraid it won't work out.
Oh.
Don't you think so?
Okay.
I like the notion of a hammock out in Scott's backyard on a good brisk day.
A lot of people after it, you mean? Darn it, I never knew this hammock was occupied.
Perfectly all right. Crawl right in. I'm Mr. John Williams.
I'm Mr. Sam Jackson.
Meet my son, Harry.
Where's he?
Down underneath here someplace. Oh, Harry!
Which concludes another brief interlude at the small house halfway up in the next block.